Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praise to the Most High, Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother, who is wisdom, who is the Holy Spirit. Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray that the Most High blesses this lesson today, because we're knowledge and understanding of the events of the past in order to understand what is currently happening on the earth, so that we may get a much better understanding of the soon things to come on the earth. Today we're going to be continuing talking about Og, one of the most prolific and famous giants of the pre-Antediluvian era and even after the flood. Very little is discussed in the Bible concerning the giants and their accomplishments and their deeds. And it seems as if a lot of that information has been hidden on purpose, so that the vast majority of the world does not realize that there are all these superhuman entities and supernatural entities and things transpiring on the earth. We're going to be talking about Og and his confrontation with Moses. And many of these books are showing us that many of these confrontations took place here on this continent, over here in the Americas. And there was a great comment that I actually put here I want to read, because many of our grandparents, great-grandparents, knew who we were. They had heard stories about giants being dug up in yards, and maybe in their own backyards. And our own grandparents were trying to tell us the truth of how we were the natives, how we had already been here, and talking about the giant bones that were found all over this country. And it doesn't, I don't find it odd at all that you look at the this X that is being made with these these eclipses in the sky, and how they're making an X right here now in the heartland of the Americas, very close to where these giants used to roam and where some of these battles had taken place. Let's take a look at the comment here. This was from earlier, I think today. I'm going to read it here because it was a really good comment. And I think this is exactly what's been going on, even with our people trying to preserve our history and pass it down. And many of our people seeming to think that our grandparents and great-grandparents did know what they were talking about, but they were just laying the seeds to the awakening that would be happening later on. They were used to, plant those seeds and lay the groundwork for our awakening now. It says, true story. I live in Ohio, and my grandparents purchased a house back in the 1960s. The house sits on a mound, and back in the early 70s, the city was laying pipes and wire under the property, and they stumbled across a great femur. My grandmother at first thought it was a dinosaur bone, and so did the workers. So they called in anthropologists and had the backyard excavated for about a few weeks. My family wasn't allowed to use their own backyard because the government had been called in. My grandma remembered them taking out the rest of the bones, and she said they were bones of a giant man. I thought it was tall tales my grandmother told us to scare us, but my mother, uncle, and aunts confirmed the story long after her passing. Too bad I took my grandmother for granted as a child, because she told so much truth, and I didn't even know, like the fact that she said that us Negroes are Indians and never came from Africa. She said that her family came from the same tribe as Pocahontas, and she was right. I did my research, and we're from two Powhatan tribes. Shaking my head, rest in peace, Grandma. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, going back to giants, Ohio is believed to be part of the old Assyrian and parts of the Babylonian Empire. So no wonder there's so many giants found here. And that's definitely been something that has been hidden A lot of this information has been sequestered, hidden, just put away so to be forgotten. That many of the original things that we read about in the scriptures and the Bible pre-flood was happening right here. Just like in the last video talking about, you see the concentration of where they find the vast majority of these bones of these giants being right here in the Midwest area, eastern part of the country right here. And when you look at that X that is being formed, okay, by these eclipses, it's really close to where the X marks the spot to where most of these giants where there's bones have been showing up. Remember this great land, the land of many waters, where many people were brought to fight over these lands. As you can see, the giants were fighting over these lands even before. And the same thing was going to happen because Moses was leading the Hebrews to the land of promise. And it would make sense that that land of promise would still be inhabited by giants, by the general who won that 100,000 giant war, because they fought so hard to attain that land of choice, that the Most High would then lead us and have to be with us in order to battle with these entities, in order for us to be able to take the land that was promised to us before. So it starts to make a lot of sense as to why pretty much this was the fourth part of the world, and the vast majority of the world was forced to stay away until we messed up, until we broke our covenant with the Most High, as talked about in the book of Nephi. And then the other nations were allowed to come over here. And it's kind of funny because it's kind of like when you have a little brother and he has a toy that you want, and he has the best toy. So, you talk to him, you try to, hey, let's trade toys. I have this old beat up little car. He has a brand new Ferrari, little remote control car. So you try to talk up your old car. Yeah, man, I know it's old, but it's a really good car. It's really fast, Yeah, it's all scratched up on the side and everything else, but you know what? That adds character. People like scratches on cars. People don't really like brand new looking cars. So how about we switch cars, and I'll take your car and you take my car, and maybe with the little brother, you can kind of manipulate them and make them think like, yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I think your car is even better than mine. So I'm going to give you my new car and I'll take your old beat up car. That's exactly what these Gentiles have been trying to do this entire time, telling us, hey, your lands are over here in the east. You guys are originally over here in the east. Yeah, this land over here in America, it's okay. It's going to be destroyed. It's Babylon. Your land's over there. All the while they know that the choice land is over here. They know that the best lands are over here. As you could tell, the giants knew where the best lands were too, because as you can see, where they're fighting over, these choice lands right here. Now, it kind of starts to make much more sense as to why the whole world is trying to manipulate us into thinking that our land was on the other side of the ocean, because they're trying to keep the best choicest land, the most choice land for themselves, and try to manipulate us to take that old beat up clunker while they get to keep the brand new Ferrari. The whole world is made, their lifestyles, living it up in the world because of the resources and the land, that everything that this land provides over here. I mean, can you really blame them for wanting to keep the best for themselves? They know that the Most High gave the best lands to Shem, and they know that their time here is going to be very short-lived. So they want to try to get as many of us out of our inheritance as possible, and over there fighting for something that's not ours in the first place. But the Most High is now bringing this knowledge and understanding of how, they're doing a whole bait and switch. They're trying to sit here and have us take their old beat up clunker so they can have the Ferrari. But the Most High is going to make sure that he gives everybody back what was promised to them in the past. Whatever you were given during that time when Noah was handing out the lands, handing out, everyone, this is your lot, giving all the lots to the children. Everyone's going back to their original lots. No matter how much you don't want to go, that's exactly what it talks about in Joel 2. Everyone's going back to their own lands. So, you don't go by what people say. They can sit there and say that, the best lands are over there, but we know the giants knew right here where the best lands were. As you could tell, where they were fighting for them. The land of many waters. Now, we're going to be talking about Og, and you're going to see how little is talked about in the Bible, and how you have to go to other books in order to get a much better understanding of what was happening. You got to understand that Og was the king of kings as far as giants was concerned. He was definitely very, very confident because he worshipped Baal, and Baal had blessed him with many victories. And the Most High, as you're going to see later on, lets people get built up so that he can take them down. They like to talk about that happening with the Pharaoh of Egypt, but it also happened with Og, the king of kings of the giants. When he came and talked to Moses, he was very confident because why wouldn't he be? He was a giant, the giant of giants. He had, like I said, been successful against Nimrod. And to think that some little itty bitty man who was as a grasshopper to him could do anything wrong, do anything to him, would pretty much be kind of crazy to think about. So when Og showed up, he was probably very cocky, very arrogant. And these stories should start to remind you of something, because there's nothing new under the sun. Same thing happened with David and Goliath. David came out to fight Goliath, and Goliath didn't take him serious at all. Same thing was going on here with Og. But if you're only stuck reading the Bible, you'd never know that. Because this is pretty much how it starts out. Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 1. Then we turned and went up the way of Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. Now, if the king of Bashan was this massive giant, what do you think he said to the people? What do you think he was saying to the Hebrews? What do you think he was saying to Moses? Well, tonight you're going to hear what he was saying from the book of Og. Okay? The Lost Book of King Og, chapter 7. The final words of Og. Words to Moses. It says, "Did you think, O corrupt worm of Israel, that I did not stand above the great water and the mountains? You who have never touched the sky or stood tall over anyone. My meditation, my dreams, are your loose-bowed death. Bowel of the earth will guide me like he did with Nimrod." Okay, the mangled loin, Nephilim worm. "Behold, I am Og, the largest man in the land. What can you possibly do to me? Are you prepared to die? I have watched you crawl into the light as a corrupt fecal worm. I have watched your mother, Egypt, eat your young. I watch now, and I ponder, is this why you now war with me, O worm of Israel? You have slain my neighbor in Sihon. Baal will avenge and empower me to sever the corrupt worm with force. Your false god, your weak little men. Og will spit upon your warriors who trail like ants beneath feces. I, Og, wipe the spittle from my beard. I, Og, will arise when ready, and with the strength in but one arm, I, Og, will break all the horn of Israel." So this dude's very confident, talking a whole lot of mess. But the thing is that he doesn't realize he's not talking mess against us as a people. He's offending our power. And they know exactly what's going to happen, how that's going to end up for him. Are the tales of my exploits not traveling to your itching ears, O corrupt fecal worm of Israel, of my power, of how I, Og, did battle against the unspeakable scaled monsters in the renowned fields alongside my Nephilim and Rephaim parentage? How we molded to murder, how we turned our wrath, mercy, a foreigner, where the old world monster stood. Stupid fecal worm, stupid corrupt fecal worm, your ox-like stupidity tires me to sleep. O bitter, blackened, corrupt fecal worm, do not my royal smaller self sorceresses of Baal of the earth dance and prophesy of your arrival? Have we in Bashan not dreamed nightly of your murder? My soothsayers tell of our victory, worship, sacrifices. My priestesses speak of sorcery and perversion. For Baal has spoken of when I, Og, will tear the virgin child skull of the corrupt fecal worm Moses from his soft, dung-filled body and hold it over Bashan as a blood sign to Baal of the earth. Your barren women will sing praises to Og. My dreams need no interpretation. It says, how will I, Og, murder the corrupt one? I murder you as a dog torn by a bull at the slaughter. Should I lift an entire mountain of earth over my head? Is not Baal the god of this fertile earth that I, Og, live in? The kingdom supreme. Baal has thousands of, and answers to the pathetic excrement smeared insect-sized god, Israel. Come here, that I, Og, might bind you with bracelets and cords, empowered by Baal of the earth outside of your temple in the high place. How many castaways have you killed since your insect-sized God told you not to kill? You were commanded, you fecal-minded hypocrite. The spirits of the slain complain about you and cry out. Moses, you blood-drunk feaster upon feces, like a cowardly virgin, smaller self-child, with gift toys before the sacrifice. You run from the skirts of your mother, Egypt, to me, that we may do battle. I, Og, will grind your bones to their dung marrow. I, Og, will pluck your eyes from your face and toss them to the blood pit. I will eat both your arms to the stump. Great fear shall seize you, and you shall fall upon your blood, vomit-stained face, broken and contrite before Og. So as you can tell, he's feeling himself right here. And he's letting everybody know all the things he's about to do to Moses and to the other Hebrews. He never thought that he was going to meet his maker this evening. He, was ultimately confident that he was going to win this battle hands down. But this is what the Most High does to these Gentiles, these other nations. He builds them up. The Most High is the one that builds them up. He builds them up for his own purpose, so that he can show his power to the world. Let's continue. My smaller self, priestesses, my smaller self, sorceresses of Baal of the earth shall dance and witness the slaughter of the corrupt fecal worm of Israel. And they will disrobe and paint their supple flesh with Moses' blood and entrails before a Baal of the earth. When we celebrate on high, and Ogias will carry the severed stupid virgin child skull on high over the roads. There will be screams of praise to Og, to Baal of the sun. There will be roast flesh served to Baal of the earth, to Baal of the stars, and celestial bodies, even to Mot, to Og. Cheers as Moses' virgin head is held high through the roads of Bashan. Because you want it so. I will not anoint my head and beard with oil before I go. Hold on. I will anoint my head and beard with oil before I go to war, make war with you, insect worshipping. Virgin child, you will be defeated. Corrupt little worm, smaller self Moses. My spies have told I, Og, of your smaller self army. and their worship for any god but yours. Okay. And your murderous solutions of your time in Egypt, of your commandments, of laws, of your violence and madness, all in the name of your fecal insect-sized God. Okay, is not your hypocrisy shining as a beacon before you? You who should not kill because of your God's commandments are the most murderous of all. Okay, so now he's pretty much talking about our power as well. So he moved from just talking about Moses, and now he's moving to talk about how our power has no power. And that's what this really works down to all the time. These other entities and these other nations pretty much having a contest between their power and our power, and to see which one is the greatest. Okay. Corrupt fecal worm, smaller self Moses. My spies told of the bronze snake to look upon when poisoned. You would kill your own for not worshiping your senseless, corrupt, insect-sized God who kills, yet commands that you should not. Murderous, smaller self Israel, now at the foot of my kingdom, I will gird my complete loins to destroy you and all of your flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under the stars, and everything of yours that has life shall die. As the last of the Rephaim leader in the 100,000 giant war, and the survivor of the great waters, I will kill you with a sword, and your wives shall be widows, and your children shall be fatherless. You will be slaughtered and burned for Baal of the earth. Baal of the sun will bring down the flames. I, says, after killing the king Arid, then the king of Shihon, and your beard was drenched in their wives' and children's blood, you would gird your loins against the last of the Rephaim. Gird them well. It is time to stand against a true priest of Baal. Upon your firstborn I will feed. I will kill your root and slay your remnant. My hands are ready for warfare. In my late age, the stray dogs of Bashan will feast on the flesh of Israel and the yellowing entrails of Moses on the roads and in the paths. All of this earth wills it so. My spies say that when you killed the king of Shihon, you killed the women and the children, keeping the spoils. Your corrupt fecal god has driven you mad. Murder, slaughter, destruction at the hands of Israel, of war madness, drunk with the blood of spoils. Enemies learned life is still lost even when the battle is won. Worm, I will release the floating wild beast. I wonder if that's going to be dragons. Okay? To you, O corrupt fecal worm Israel, learn to suffer its ways of connection from before your time, before your flood, before your Nimrod. We were there from the time of monsters, from the time of the bright ones, my brethren in the fields, their livestock, and the greater beasts of old, creeping, cloven-hooved monsters that ruled in the giants, those men of old with powerful dark ones, connected in heart and mind, and unstoppable before the gods. One mind and of one heart they ruled, these men of old and their beasts driven before them, beasts that controlled the men as the men controlled the beasts. O stupid, corrupt, fecal worm Moses, learn to fear the heart of an animal and the mind of a giant. It is time for you to share your being with something greater. Let me finish up. I want no victory spoils, just your stupid head. Something about train for strange weapons. Make war, little man. Make war, corrupt little worm. For Baal of the earth, I'll spread the blood, the virgin body. Og, have been training each arm as one trains their oxen. My old world back and legs are ready. My life is to something fecal worm. I will tear your backbone. Okay, for Baal of the earth, Og, will pull the fecal bearded, smaller self child skull of Moses from your dung filled body. I, Og, the last of the Rephaim, how long Moses has to live. I have not summoned such anger since the 100,000 giant war. So those would be the words of Og, the things that he was saying before the battle had begun with Moses and the Israelites. But see, if you'd only read the Bible, you would not realize there's all these other things going on. And it kind of makes you think, why is it so important to hide the fact that these giants were here and these things that these giants were doing? Well, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Why it's important for them to hide this information. It's kind of like a little part of a little something like this. Regular sized man getting ready to fight against a giant that had been here before the flood, after the flood, and was definitely feeling himself and talking before the battle was to begin. That's not what I want to. I guess the other part isn't here yet. We'll leave it here, and I will read Deuteronomy 3, 2 through 7. So we'll just listen from here. So we got that. We got the start. We got Moses showing up with the army. We got Og talking about, what he's going to do to Moses. And now let's go ahead and talk. Let's go ahead and continue reading what happens. We'll start with Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 2. And the Lord said unto me, fear him not, for I will deliver him and all his people and his land into thy hand. And thou shalt do unto him as thou didst unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwelt at Heshbon. So the Lord, our power, delivered into our hands Og also, the king of Bashan, and all his people. And we smote him until none was left of him remaining. And we took all his cities. At that time, there was not a city which we took not from them. 80 cities, all the region of Argob, the kingdom of Og and Bashan. All these cities were fenced with high walls, gates, and bars, beside unwalled towns a great many. And we utterly destroyed them, as we did unto Sihon, king of Heshbon, utterly destroying the men, women, and children of every city. But all the cattle and the spoil of the cities we took for a prey to ourselves. So this would, I think, give a much better understanding of what was going on between Og and Moses and some of the interaction before, okay, before the battle. Now, why is it that a lot of this information is hidden? Well, we have to go back to who runs this world. Okay, we know the wicked run the world. The wicked does not want to be reminded of the fact that they don't really run the world. They've been given their time, but all that time that was given was a gift by the Most High. And the Most High lifts up the adversaries only for a short amount of time so that he can take them down. We know about the story of him doing this with the Pharaoh and Egypt, but now you can see how this also applies to Og and the giants. The Most High gave Og all these victories. The Most High built him up so that at the end he could be an example to the world of the power of the Most High. Let's take a look at Romans chapter 9. We'll start at 16. Actually 15. For he saith to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. So then it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of the Most High that showeth mercy. Now, the Most High chose Og and showed mercy unto him by allowing him these victories, by allowing him to be built up. for all this time. He allowed him to live after the flood so that he could be used as an example of the power of the Most High and for his people. Take a look at 17. For the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. So we've heard about the exploits of Moses against the Pharaoh and Egypt, but very little is known of the exploits of Moses and the king of Bashan, the giant Og, and how he was raised up, same as the Pharaoh here. Why was he raised up? So that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. Now, if you don't want the Most High's name declared throughout the earth, what would you do? You would do exactly as what you are seeing. You would hide this information. You would hide the fact that Og came out to meet Moses in battle and was supremely confident that he was going to win this battle. And this giant was powerless against the power of the Most High. That was a testimony that the Most High was establishing throughout the earth. And this was a testimony that the priesthood of Mahan has been hiding this whole time. The Most High has been raising up his people and raising up the other nations. There's nothing new. Now he's raising up his people through knowledge and understanding. These other nations have been raised up in power here at the end days. So as they love to say that they have the biggest military, they're the strongest ever, all these different nations, they have the most, destructive weapons and everything else. So who gave them all that? The Most High. The Most High blessed them with all of their weapons. The Most High blessed them with everything that they have. Why is that? Because the Most High, what does it say right there? He wanted to, that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. The only reason that these other nations have been lifted up was so the Most High can show his power. He's showing his power right now through our awakening. He's showing his power right now as how he can preserve our records, and then he can pick who he wants to use to deliver this information to the nation. And that's exactly what you're seeing right now. Information has definitely been hidden so that the Most High would not be able to have that his name declared throughout the earth. But now this information is coming together, and it is now starting to come. All these pieces are starting to connect. It goes back again with the second being the greatest. So Moses was used to take down the Egyptian empire. He was used to to be able to free his people. And that was a huge event because of the kingdom of Egypt being so powerful. The Most High took that up another notch. Like it says, the second one is even greater than the first. So we had that one. And now the Most High took it up another notch by taking down the giants that were even greater men even before the flood. And he took them down as well to show you that, the first one was amazing. The second one, when you got a man as big as a mountain and you got his armies that took down the other, 100,000 in the 100,000 war of giants. Moses showed the Hebrews then that there's nothing that is above their power. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys this evening, showing you the Most High is definitely always going to get the praise. He's always going to get, the whole world is going to know how powerful he is. The whole world is going to know that you need to bow down and worship the true power of the universe, and not these these fakes that have been raised up for people to kneel down to. The Most High is going to show how he is the ultimate power of the universe. And that's exactly what he's doing now. All praise is to the Most High, Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother, who is wisdom, who is the Holy Spirit. Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.